أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا بفضلك علما يا رب العالمين. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to witness Ramadan and to benefit from it, Ya Rabbal Alameen. So, Sheikh Farhan did the excellent presentation about the virtues of fasting, right? And those virtues that he mentioned are the things that are going to encourage us to look forward to fasting. Because these are the things that we actually want to extract from Ramadan and beyond Ramadan, like he mentioned. But like any other thing, there's rules to govern it. And how can I get those is how am I going to conform with the law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. So we're going to look at the rulings about fasting, okay? The first thing that starts is that we say, how do we know that the month of Ramadan begins? And this is a huge debate that happens amongst the communities, and these are the things that divide the Muslim communities. Walillah alhamd, that Al-Hijrah is not among the communities that is going to fight over this issue. Alhamdulillah, our community mostly is on a unanimous agreement that we follow what the administration and the organization and what the Sheikh says. No one has an issue and causes rift in the community. But if you go to other communities, it's the total opposite. People fight, people cause chaos, people actually, like he said, there's fist fight that happens because of this issue. So how do we know that the month of Ramadan has begun?
Sighting of the moon.
Sighting of the moon is one and the most predominant. What else?
Now we have the astrology.
Calculation, right? So there is two. The second thing is calculation. And then the third thing is we wait for the current month. Which month are we in right now? Sha'ban. We wait for the month of Sha'ban to complete its 30 days. If one of the two hasn't been met, okay? Let's go with the first condition of the sighting of the moon. Because the sighting of the moon is agreed upon all the schools is that it's actually mandated. صَوْمُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ وَافْطَرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ tells us in Hadith al-Bukhari that observe fasting and begin fasting based on the observation of the moon on the crescent, okay? And break fast and celebrate the month that you've engaged in based on the sighting of the moon. Absolutely. We all agree, and all of the schools agree, that we need to sight. Now the question comes is that, how do we sight? Because sometimes it's easy to see, right? I see, it's clear, everyone sees, the whole community sees, you see, I see, you see, right there's the moon, mashallah, that's good, right? If it's a clear day, no issue to be seen, so we say actually one individual is sufficient for us to establish the month of Ramadan. One individual, because it's clear. Okay. Now the issue comes, that's not where people fight. People fight on where it's now cloudy, the visibility is not that clear. What happens? That's where the fight is. How now should we base the sighting of the moon if the clouds are there? What should we do? Because the hadith tells us, if that happens, if it's cloudy, فَقْدِرُوا. فَقْدِرُوا, now that word can be interpreted to mean that you can either wait for the 30 days to complete or to calculate. So there's an indication in the Sunnah that gives us the legitimacy of following calculation. It's just that throughout the history of the madahib, that they always said what? That which is agreed upon is the citation of the moon. And if it's not cited, then we just complete the 30 days. But where does the calculation emerge now? Right? Later on. Because you all know the conditions that if it's clear, we repeat again, in the Shafi'i madhab, that one individual is sufficient for us to base the calculation. And in the Maliki madhab, we have that it can be two individual. It has to be two individual that tells us the two people see that the sighting of the moon, if it's clear. And then we have another opinion in the Maliki madhab and the Hanafi madhab. We have something called al-Jam al-Ghafir, meaning that these are a number of people that when they come together, it's impossible and it brings about certainty. It's impossible for all of them to conspire to lie. That can be 3, 4, 5 or more. That is when we can establish the month of Ramadan. Okay. Now, let's go back to when things now, where the calculation comes from. What do you guys think?
Instruments. Oh, the telescopic, what is it called?
Historically, because now we are, I personally think now is that the calculation has a little bit even more, has gained a little bit of even more legitimacy, just as saying, right? Because we have tools that wasn't present back then that can help us, right? Have the visibility. Is it actually visible for us to see the moon on that specific locality? Right? So nowadays we have those things. They'll tell us it's actually impossible to see the moon, let's say, for example, in Northern Virginia. It's possible to see it maybe, let's say, in California, like that. So we have actually tools that help us do that. Then that is now. But historically, how has that been? They didn't have technology. So now it makes sense why all of them agreed on what? We have to either see it, or if we don't see it, we have to finish the 30 days. But we have in the Shafi'i madhab Imam al-Ramli. Imam al-Ramli is an authoritative figure in our madhab. And actually he has a point. He says, look, I agree, right? We have to do the citation of the moon. But let something, if an astrology tells us that it's impossible for us to see moon in that locality, then we can use calculation to help people refrain from trusting the individuals that say that he has seen moon. So we can use calculation to say what? We cannot fast that day, we have to complete 30 days. That's what he says. You can use calculation. But to call off the beginning of Ramadan and to make sure that we finish the 30 days of Shaban. Everyone clear with me?
But if it's visible in one part of the world.
Now we're gonna come back to that, right? We're gonna come to global sighting. We're gonna come back to that. But let's finish with the calculation stuff from the astronomer. Imam Ramli says that. He says, but even if we can even take the opinion of the astronomer as long as we trust him. And as long as he has the qualities of being pious. And how can we tell piety? It's like this individual is conformed with the Sharia. That's it. Because haqiqatan, we are not able to know the intentions of people. No one is able to do that. Because that is what? That is something hidden. No one can sit here and say, okay, your intention is correct. No, my intention is bad. No one is able to do that. But I can see, mashallah, the brothers in the masjid, he just prayed Isha in Jama'ah, mashallah, right? I can see physical traits that I can attest that he is a righteous individual. That's all I need. And if he tells me that, and I know he's an astronomer, right? Then he tells me that he is able to see the moon based on the calculation that the new moon is going to be sighted on, for example, the 5th of, let's say, for example, January, mathalan. Then we can say, okay, what? The 6th of the January is what? Going to be the day of Ramadan? Because I can base on that. And some of the scholars now, even later on, like Imam al-Subki, again another Shafi says that actually, the seeing of the moon, if the visibility is difficult, he says dhanni. Dhanni meaning that it's speculative. We need a lot of conditions to be met so that we can put on people. He said, but calculation with the use of instrument will bring us to something we call qat'i. It brings about certainty. And we know that if in Sharia, if we have an certainty and speculation, what do we base on? We base on qat'i. Qat'i takes precedence. Something which is certain takes precedence. And that's why we have to be certain in everything that we do. That's why we say we have a qawaid that says al-yaqeen la yazul bi-shak. Certainty cannot be removed by doubt. So that's what As-Subki explains and elaborates on Ar-Ramli's position. Now, she brought a point now. Now we've taken out the easy calculation, global sighting, all these things. There's the issue of global sighting. Should we all follow global or not? What do you guys think?
I mean, if one portion of the world sees it, it means that it is going to remain in that state for the rest of the world. And so that's like a logic that like there was like a lot of controversy last so long. Some people weren't fasting because like, oh well, we didn't see it, and then other people were saying like, oh well, Saudi saw it and they're fasting, so why like it doesn't make sense if they see it, we should also. And so like.
But does both understanding have precedence? Yeah, absolutely does have precedence. We have, I think, the hadith of Ibn Abbas. I wish I wrote that. I think it's hadith of Qurayb. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's the hadith of the narrator is Qurayb. He was in Syria and he came, he said, actually, we saw the sighting in Syria. But Ibn Abbas said, we didn't see it here. So we're not going to follow them.
But I feel like you should follow Saudi because, like, if they see it near the haram, then.
But that's not how fiqh operates. Fiqh doesn't operate like that. Now, granted that there's both opinions. There's opinion that actually we will follow global sighting. Saudi saw it, California saw it, Australia saw it, it doesn't matter. We will all follow that. Okay?
Is that valid for the Shafi'i madhab?
There is an minor opinion in the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali school, and the Hanafi school. They can take the global opinion. How strong is it in the specific madhab? I don't know. In the Shafi'i school, I'll tell you it's a minor opinion. Because the standard opinion in the Shafi'i school is that we say we follow their own locality. Each locality has to have its own sighting. Based on the hadith of Qurayb about Ibn Abbas. We take that and say, okay, we will only follow our local sighting. That's what we do. And that's why you see a lot of Shafi'i lands, East Africa, and stuff like that. You might see them either have conformity with Saudi or have no conformity. Some years they have, some years they don't. Some people might seem that this is inconsistency, but no. They follow this ruling at its key. Right? So any questions about that? We've broken down all the different opinions that is there. But now let's go to, now these all are theory. These are all academic discussions. How about practical? What should we do practically? I will suggest that you follow your local community. If your local community is Dar Hijrah, whatever Dar Hijrah tells you, ahlan wa sahlan. If your local community is another community and it conflicts with Dar Hijrah, labas, no problem. You follow your community. Always be with the community. Then do not be an individual that causes friction in the community. Yes?
What if, for example, I live in near Dar Hijrah, so Dar Hijrah is my community.
Correct.
What if I want to follow Adams or follow Dar Noor?
Right, that is your own ikhtiyar. That is ikhtiyar shakhsi. That's personal preference.
In fiqh, is that okay?
No, it's okay. A fiqh has no bearing on what community you choose over what community you don't choose. Right? At the end of the day, who is obligated to fast or not, or who is obligated to follow a command or not? Ana. So me preferring A or B or C doesn't have a bearing. And that is why we have actually the hadith that says, istafti qalbak. Hatta even somebody gives you fatwa, at the end of the day, who is responsible? Not the sheikh that gave you the fatwa. Ana. It's me. Regardless of what opinions, I can have contradictory opinions. But at the end of the day, who's supposed to choose? Me. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us all moral compass. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us intuitions. There's some things that you say, okay, you wonder, I actually really feel comfortable with option A. You will choose option A. No one is going to impose on you options. So if you feel comfortable that you consider yourself part of a community in Adams, okay. Community is not based on distance. Community is based on where do you actually feel that you're a part of community. Right? Yes.
But if there's a way that has no doubt, like an instrument, they can see it. All the countries, we can all just pray on the same day. Odd nights are the same. You don't feel like that could be an odd night. You know what I'm saying?
But the thing is that people don't appreciate that. People who use instrument, because the people that says, so muliru, you have to see with the naked eyes. That's the condition.
So they just won't trust NASA or like with their big instruments.
So when you go into NASA and all these things, then you're going into the realms of calculation. Again, both are valid opinions. Now the problem is when an individual imposes on you their own opinion. That is a problem. Yeah, I told you, okay, it's only my opinion that you have to cite. Yeah, but that's not how we operate. That's not how our tradition has been. There is both, and there's room for both. You feel comfortable with Roya, no problem. I respect it. Another person feels comfortable with calculation, no problem. The problem with us is that we're intolerant and we impose on each other personal preferences. And that's not how fiqh works. Because at the end of the day is what? What is the goal? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ Taqwa. And taqwa is not communal. Taqwa is personal. Right? And personal means what? Then I have the obligation to make the decision. Right? I shouldn't wait for the... And it's good when the community makes a decision it makes me feel comfortable because everyone will not agree on something which is wrong. Then that will help me settle that iffiness. It helped me, okay, I can now feel a little bit more relaxed and calm. Because I have now a lot of people rubber stamping that specific thing. Got it? Any questions on calculation?
Your screen is on.
Yes, I don't have a screen. I'm not that fancy. I'm not that fancy. And the thing is that the slide that I'm using is the slide that I use. It's actually a presentation that I made from last year. It has everything. And part of the things is that I'm going to omit. Sheikh Farhan is going to talk about it next week, inshallah, if Allah Ta'ala gives us good health. Okay? So now let's look at some of the conditions of fasting. Okay? What are some of the conditions of fasting?
Being healthy.
You must be like pure for women, and then you have to be.
Okay, one at a time. Ability. Right? I have to have ability. Okay, I agree. Ability is one. Okay? But is that... Sure, actually, I like ability. Yeah, let's take ability. And then, okay, that's ability. And then what?
For women, okay.
I will categorize that under ability.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right? Because meaning that you have to have, all of us, first of all, what are some of the things that have no effort that? If you're a Muslim, that is one of the conditions that the fasting is going to be accepted. Now, first thing I know as a Muslim is going to be imposed and is obligated upon me. Okay. What about a non-Muslim?
Yeah, there are teachers who fast with the kids who are fasting just to
Show support.
support.
No problem.
But
Is it
take
valid?
The credit. No, I don't think.
What do you guys think? Is it first of all imposed on them?
No.
What do you guys think?
If they're not Muslims, then it's not expected of them, but they're doing it to show support.
It's not imposed on them. What about prayer? Is prayer imposed on them?
No.
No?
Non-Muslims you're talking about.
Yes.
Right now. Yeah, it's not imposed on them either.
Right? So there's disagreement among the usulis. Specifically for prayer, is that they say prayer is actually imposed on some. Within the usulis, there's some that says actually prayer is imposed on them.
On non-Muslims.
Yes, in the Quran, what does it say? That why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in the depth of fire? We warn from amongst those who established the prayer. Ma lakum min al-musallin. The verse of the Quran. Why are you punished? They say, okay.
Well, I thought it was if the message had reached them.
Again, the verse is clear. Why you been punished? And then they will respond, the people of the hellfire, we warn from amongst those people who established the prayer. The usulis will use this, they say, okay, look at this, the verse is clear. That they're actually being punished because they did not pray. That means that prayer was obligated on them. And the others will say, no. Actually, prayer is not obligated on them. Right? So there's disagreement.
So you're talking about if they're Christians, they have to attend their service on Sunday, or if they're Jews, they attend their service on Saturday. That's what.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Is prayer obligated on them?
On who?
On the non-Muslim?
So okay, wait. There is the obligation that they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there is no expectation upon them from the Muslim community because there is no compulsion in religion.
No one is forcing them.
Yeah.
There's no force. Meaning, when I say is it obligated on them, is that if they become Muslim, are they obligated to make it up? No.
I thought, because when they become Muslim, it's like they have a clean slate.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's all over.
So, but if the first opinion is if it's obligated on them, then they have to make it up.
Yes.
Right? But there's a disagreement. The majority, they say that it's not obligated on them, so that you don't have to make it up. Okay? What about somebody who was a Muslim and left Islam and came back?
Didn't make it
Yeah,
up.
they have to make it up
Why?
because
And you all agree that they have to make it up? Okay, you say they don't have to make it up. Okay?
they have to make it up because they were aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message. They believed in him at some point. They know of his existence, and so like once the message has reached you, it's you are now have been met with the obligation to fulfill Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights upon you.
But the other ones can be said the same thing.
I think it's obligated on them while they were Muslim at first, then it's not, then it is.
Okay? That's what he said. What is your thinking behind it?
That if you're not Muslim, you're not obligated to do it. So if you leave Islam, you're not Muslim for that period of time.
But you're a different kind of category, right? When we categorize, there's different category. Now you're somebody who, we call it murtad.
Murtad, exactly.
And a murtad has a different hukum. He has a different ruling. Is that the fuqaha, they say, if an individual fasts in that state, is their fasting going to be accepted, first of all? They are murtad. But they say, you know what, I'll continue still fasting the month of Ramadan.
No, it doesn't. It's not accepted.
It's not accepted. We all, and the madhahib, all of them agree. Great. Now, afterwards, I don't know the other madhab, but I know the Shafi'i school, that it's actually obligated on them and they have to make up the days that they missed. Why? Is because when you are a Muslim and you left, now you've given up your privileges. You gave up your privilege, the privileges that you had. And you gave them up, and you're actually accountable for that.
So
And
if I'm a Christian, I still have to pray?
if you were a Muslim,
Yeah.
and then you left, yes, you have to make those up.
Even
In the Shafi'iyah, fasting, prayer, all the things that you are obligated to do for the amount of period that you left.
No shortcuts.
yeah, then what's the point of
Returning.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep iman within our hearts and our children and our progeny so that we don't leave, okay?
We don't have to wake up.
The second thing is that, so that we can go on these things quickly, is maturity.
Oh yeah.
Maturity. Somebody who is not baligh, is fasting obligated on them?
I thought they fall into the category of people who are not able.
No.
they practice if they're not valid?
Is it mandated on them? No, it's not a condition for them, right? So how do we know that somebody has reached the sign of bulugh? There is some primary signs and there's some secondary signs. What are some of the primary signs?
The physical change. In the
Physical change in both of them, especially physical change in female, right? But that physical change is secondary, actually.
I thought it was her menstrual cycle.
Menstrual cycle is the primary. For the sisters, and for the men is what? What is the primary? wet dream. Wet dream is the primary, right? And then secondary is now physical changes for both. Hair, right, and other things, okay? We all know that because we cover this in fiqh, so let's jump over it. What if these are not met? The primary signs are not there, the secondary signs are not there. Is there a tertiary sign?
15, isn't it?
We base it on age. And the madhahib disagree. This school says that 15 and this school says that 18.
I thought Imam Shafi'i was like fairly old and still had not met the second or, I don't know, maybe not the primary sign, and said he wasn't fasting. He was giving a lecture at one point during Ramadan.
Yes, he had to wait until and he was giving a lecture and he drunk.
Yeah.
He was drinking water. People are like, what is this quote unquote sheikh? Because he did not, he was young and he was giving the...
He appeared to be older.
Yes, of course, because of his demeanor, the way he carried himself. And he was at that time, he was even a scholar giving class.
Yeah.
But he was a kid. Radiallahu anhu arda. Right? So there is 15 or 18 lunar year. That brings us to what? Around age 13, if it's 15, and then around age 15 for the 18 years. Okay? So all that. But we should encourage our children to fast. I started fasting introductory when I was age 6. Again, I don't fast the whole day, but I have breakfast and I don't eat until maybe like 3 p.m.
Our parents did that to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most parents that were obviously, they did that. And then when you're age 7, no breakfast until 3.
Yes, it's like piecing them together.
Correct.
Yes.
And then age 8, let's see how much you can tolerate. The moment that you cannot be able to do it, then we give you food. By age 9, your system is done. So what they do is, at even that age 9, you're still not accountable, right? So you fast one day, break one day, fast one day, break one day, fast one day. Age 10, you're already a Superman, we compete. Or a Superwoman, you compete. It was actually a competition. I fasted how many? I've completed all the 30. Oh no, you breakfast 5 days. Right? It was a competition among us back home, at least. That's how we used to do it.
What is back home?
Huh? Back home?
Yeah.
Africa.
I know. I'm Africa too. From Tunis. Okay.
It's recorded, so I'll tell you after the recording is done.
Oh, whoa, sorry.
Right? So, and then another thing is that full mental faculty is present.
Yes.
Full mental what?
Full mental capacity, faculty, right? And that it means that if somebody is not insane, if you're insane, is fasting obligated on you? No. And are you allowed to make it? Are you supposed to make it up? That's the better word. Allahu Akbar, Allah bless you. Are you supposed to make it up if you're insane?
No. What quantifies
Insanity? Insanity, actually, that's a very good question. Insanity, if an individual doesn't have idraqul waqi, you don't know your surrounding. You don't know your name, you don't know what day it is, you don't know what place it is, or you don't know what time it is, meaning that you completely shut.
But what about people with Down syndrome or what is the other one?
autism?
Yes, autism. You know,
And
they know their names. They can talk, but they're not engaged with Allah probably as much as.
Are they sane completely, Shar'an? Then that is specific, we have to ask a mufti. You have to ask a scholar, yeah.
I have a question out of the topic.
Out of the topic, hold it off, hold it.
Okay.
Don't, write it down. Write it down. So insanity now is that. But that is specific question about disabled, specifically autism and Down syndrome. The mufti has to consult actual psychiatrist who is a professional, and then they'll base on hukum of the. It's specific to different cases. There is no general answer, and the general answer I don't know. Right, so that we can maybe ask Sheikh next week.
So for people who have mental health capacity, they pay kafara or no? They don't, right?
No, because if they're insane, aslan, they're not obligated to fast.
Okay.
So there is, right? They're not obligated to fast. So they're not obligated to fast, nor are they obligated to make it up. But insanity can be caused, now there's a different category, can be caused naturally, then that is the hukum that we talked about. But sometimes insanity is self-afflicted, meaning that I abused substance and that led me to have mental disabilities. Then that we call it self-transgression and self-infliction. Then the Sharia says, specifically the Shafi'i school says that you are actually accountable to fast, and if you never come back to your actual faculty, then for those amount of period you have to, there has to be some kafara that is paid. Or if you actually come back to sanity for those days that you missed, you have to make them up. But this is if it's a self-inflicted insanity.
What if you have anorexia? You suffer from anorexia and you're like completely...
I don't know what anorexia is.
Anorexia is like the psychological and physical changes in the person's body
Okay.
that
It comes from people who like, essentially it's an eating disorder. People starve themselves because they have like body dysmorphia.
distorted, exactly.
And so like basically they look in the mirror and they have like no actual idea what they own look like and what their own selves look like.
Yeah.
I'm currently like mentoring this young girl who just became Muslim like not that long ago, and she is concerned about like Ramadan, and she is anorexic, or she struggles with anorexia, and it's something that was like she's been stuck with it for years, and she's extremely skinny. But she's trying to like, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she's trying to have a better relationship with her diet because she knows that like her body has a heft on her, and it's like, you know.
Because these are specificities, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
And so there is this issue that, again, we can, so this is the second question that we can ask Sheikh Farhan. Because you have to ask somebody who is an authoritative figure. I am not. I'm just no one. They're good questions. All right? And I'm not shy away from saying I don't know. It's not out of humbleness. I actually don't. Right? Some people might think, oh, the brother is so humble. No, I don't. Legitly, no. So that is mental, right? So that we inflicted, we took that out of the way. Okay, now. Unconsciousness. If somebody is unconscious, now that is a separate category from what? I'm putting some of you to sleep, huh? I'm sorry.
No. So unconsciousness, you mean coma?
Coma can be a form of unconsciousness, fainting,
Okay.
right? So the time of this. So unconsciousness, what do you guys think if somebody is unconscious?
I mean, if they're not consciously beginning
Right.
their fast and consciously breaking their fast, they can't be considered fasting.
Because
Okay.
they have not made the intention to.
That is separate. Okay, for example, I started fasting and I was unconscious, meaning I went into coma during the day or I fainted.
Well, some people don't break their fast even if they fainted. They're like, oh, we'll wake up, we'll be fine.
If this is as a result of the fasting, I was told like if you become like medically unwell from the fasting, you should break your fast because.
That is something different.
Okay.
But somebody is unconscious. What is the ruling of that, first of all? Is that person considered fasting or not?
If they've not been given IV or anything else to kind of
That is again another issue, right? Just unconsciousness, meaning that somebody fainted
So wait,
while fasting.
initially?
Huh?
While they're fasting?
They are fasting. It's during the, right? They fainted. Let's say, it doesn't matter how long. They fainted. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, an hour.
They're still
They're
fasting
break-
because
they're
if you
breaking-
can still take a qaylula and like be considered fasting.
No, if you're unconscious, how would you wake up?
No, but
No, but some people have that unconsciousness. You can faint for an hour and then wake up.
they're still fasting.
They're still fasting.
They're still fasting? What do you guys think?
They've not been resuscitated, so, I mean, unless they wake up and say, oh my gosh, I just fainted and woke up, or the parent.
Hatta even that one.
They're still fasting.
They're still fasting? Everyone agreed they're still fasting?
Because they're,
I don't think
Like
so.
if you faint
It's
or
when
throw
you
up,
ingest-
you,
Huh?
you break your
Throw up
fast.
is different.
Throwing up?
If I faint, I thought you.
Throwing up is different. If Farhan is going to address that. Throwing up doesn't break your fast. Unless
unless you swallow them.
Unless. Sheikh Farhan is going to explain that next week. So how many of us think that if somebody has unconsciousness, that is meaning that fainted or went into a coma, even if it's for a brief moment, during the day of Ramadan, breaks the fast is still valid?
Valid, I say.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Almost all of us, okay? So there is a minor opinion in the Shafi school that agrees with all of you. But this is not, how madhabs functions is that madhabs, they have something we call muftabih, that the madhab's predominant opinion that is given out there, outside of an academia, is that when you come to the sheikh will tell you it's not valid. Your fast is not valid. You've broken your fast and you have to make up that day.
So you can't even take a nap during your fast though?
Again, he is sleeping unconsciousness. No, they don't put it under this. The scholars that say, so this is the predominant opinion I'm giving you, that if somebody is unconscious, that their fasting has broken, and they will have to make up that day. Predominant opinion.
Only if it's unintentional, involuntary unconsciousness.
Correct, involuntary. I was standing and I fainted. I was standing, I went into coma. Has nothing to do with voluntarily or involuntarily. Has nothing to do with that. Got it? Brief moment, not brief moment, it doesn't have an issue. It has no bearing.
And it's different from like taking a nap.
Again, it's different from taking a nap.
Okay.
Separate category. They say, what happens? The fasting is broken and you have to make up that day. Predominant opinion.
Why is it
Different from napping.
no,
Different from napping.
What,
Because
what,
napping
what,
is sleeping.
no, but what makes it invalid?
Because
What about it?
part of the fasting to be valid, you have to be conscious.
And then what makes it different from taking a nap?
That's it.
Again, that is it. There is taking a nap is different, and being conscious is they separated.
Taking a nap is a natural thing.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah.
The other one is actually, that's a better way. The other one is unnatural. It's not the normal way of.
Yeah, it's like sleeping is
Good.
sleeping.
Actually, yep, better. I have a T right there. The one is natural, one is not natural. Okay? But I like your thought of you holding on to that. Because Imam al-Muzani, who is the student of Imam al-Shafi'i, says actually unconsciousness is the same as sleeping.
Yeah.
So your fasting is still what? Valid. Even if it's like somebody who slept the entire day.
Yeah.
But this is a minor opinion. Actually, it's not even given precedence.
But if you're unconscious, that means something went wrong in your body.
Correct.
If you're sleeping, you're sleeping.
You're sleeping, correct. But now I'm giving this because I want to have a transparent academic view. If now you see somebody do this, you wouldn't think that it's out of the blue. And why do I usually give a full presentation in my classes? Because for far too long, our community is always been told it's only one way or the highway. But that's not how we operate. But that's not how our tradition has operated. There is, even if it's an infringed opinion that we do not practice, but it still exists, it's good to have that awareness. And if you see people do something, you wouldn't think that, okay, this person is just bringing their own stuff. But nowadays, what happens? If we see people do a little bit slightly different from us, we become intolerant and we become judgmental. Not knowing that maybe they have a scope that, or an opinion that actually they validly follow because they have been presented that, and they actually think that has more bearing than the other opinions that we've been always presented. It's always been one way, but that's not how it's been.
Yeah, it's not black and white.
It's not black and white. Sharia was not black and white. But that's how we present it, and that's how it's been taught to us. But that's not how it is. We have another imam that says it's not valid if you lost the consciousness for the entire day. Then that's not, it's not valid and you have to make it up. So there's three nuanced positions. There's the most predominant, all the madhab says that. Actually, if you have lost consciousness, it's unnatural, then you have to make up that day, and that fasting is
I would
broken.
accept that because you're not really experiencing the lesson from fasting. Because if you're unconscious,
Correct.
then your food and your drink is not enough to give you the reward for jihad that day. You did not hold your tongue from talking bad.
But then that brings us to the question that Imam Farhan brought. What if somebody slept the entirety of the day?
Then
Is
it's
the
not
fasting valid?
Yes.
It's valid,
It's
but
valid, but
there
it's
is muqassirat, like they
Exactly.
didn't pray, they didn't
Yes.
read Quran. So like my mom always says, what's the point of fasting?
Correct.
Sleeping all
I
day.
agree.
Yeah.
The fasting is valid, but you haven't attained the full what? Reward.
Yeah.
Right? That's what all the scholars say.
It's like
Just-
different than like going to sleep at night and just like minimizing, like narrowing down the hours that you eat during the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you
It's
think?
cheating.
Yeah.
What do you think is
And there's no
like,
shortcuts in a sense.
or how did the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, have
Sallallahu
his
alayhi
day in
wasallam.
Ramadan?
I don't know.
Like, what do you recommend is the good? How do we make most out of our day? Like, how should we? When do you think is a good time to sleep, especially after doing tarawih, qiyam?
Because the Prophet ﷺ's traditional ada was that he will wake up before Fajr, do his qiyam, he will divide his night into three. 1/3 is for the family, 1/3 is for the sleep, and 1/3 is for his Lord, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But how
And
does
the-
tarawih?
Huh?
Where does tarawih fall into that?
Tarawih, the Prophet ﷺ prayed Tarawih only 3 nights.
Oh,
And Tarawih is not a tradition that was like
Yeah.
to do all 30 nights was not started by.
Right? So the Prophet ﷺ only prayed 3 nights. So Tarawih is a separate category. When I entertain that discussion, it's going to be a long discussion. I have the class on the 40 hadith of Nawawi. Next week's hadith is going to be about the concept of bid'ah. Then we can engage that, right? So the Prophet ﷺ used to divide his night like that. He will pray Fajr. And after Fajr, he would wait until Ishraq and then and he encouraged us, if you do pray 2 rak'ah after the sun has risen, 15 minutes afterwards, now we estimate everything in minutes or hourly, then you pray 2 rak'ah, it's as if you've done Hajj and Umrah, tamma, a complete Umrah and Hajj.
So that's the subh prayer.
that's the duha.
Right, that's the Duha and Ishraq,
Are the same. No?
the same.
So does it? So technically, duha you have until like 11 to pray.
Until Zawal.
Uh-huh.
Right? Until the Zawal, before Dhuhr, yani. You have that time to pray. Okay. If you do that, and some scholars differentiate between Ishraq and Salatul Duha. Then he will pray that, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then will go and have his nap. And then after that, Dhuhr, and then he will have his day.
So he would sleep until duhur.
Correct. Right? Again, nowadays, until Dhuhr, that's the time that you clocked in and that's the time that you have meetings and stuff like that. So how to maximize your best in Ramadan is very personal. And that's why it's good for people to experience these things. You see what works for you. Maybe waking up really early, waking up really late. So it depends with the individual, and that's why we have to try different things and see what works for us. Or ask for opinions and for recommendations. Try them, you feel it works, bismillah, go for it. A lot of these things are tajriba based, they are practice based. That's why our religion is based on 3 main things. A lot of ibadat and a lot of spiritual endeavor is actually based on with something we call tajribat, experiences. That's why you see some people say, okay, if you read this surah certain number of times, you get certain benefit. Some people tell you this is bid'ah, right? What is bid'ah and what is not bid'ah? That is different discussion. Now we are in the fasting time. The other thing is that, like you mentioned, the ability. So in terms of ability, we categorize that into 2. There is legal ability, and then there is the physical ability. Let's start with the physical ability. Physical ability is that you are healthy, you are not sick. Then fasting is obligated upon you. But if you fall sick, is fasting obligated upon you? Yes, it's obligated upon you. But you have a rukhsa, you have a dispensation for you not to observe fasting, but you have to make up that day. Even in terms of illness or sickness, we have something. We have long-term illness and short-term illness. Short-term illness is that, okay, I just have flu, I have COVID, I have, things that will make me break my fast for 1 or 2, 3 days. Then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me the rukhsa. He gives me the permission for me to break my fasting for those 3 days. And then, after outside Ramadan, I will make up what? I'll make up those days. Great? But there is long-term what?
Long-term,
Long-term sickness. That is like what? Terminal illness. Cancer. Right? All those things. Then I know that I am not able to recover for a long time. For that individual, he or she can do what? They can pay fidya. And fidya is 1 mudd every day. Right? You pay in terms of food, or you can pay, ask the masjid, they'll tell you muddi is about $15 or $20, whatever they tell you, then 15 times 29 or times 30, you can pay that up front if you want. Right? I have my great-grandmother alive, of 100 years age, she's over 100 years. Ameen Ya Rab. She's still alive until today, but she doesn't fast the month of Ramadan. So we actually pay for her pre-Ramadan. Right? So next week, my grandmother, her daughter, is going to actually, because in Shafi'i, we have to give it in kind. Meaning that it's not money. You give it in kind. In the staple food of the land. So we actually have people that we give them in kind, specific food for the 30 days. Right? That is old age, terminal illness, all that. Old age is same thing.
How about women who are giving birth?
Now, when we say, okay, when we talked about ability, we have physical ability, and then we have legal ability. Legal ability is menstruation. Legal ability is somebody who is in nifas, postnatal bleeding. Then for the days that they miss, then they can do what?
Wait, they're in the first what?
And we call nifas, postnatal bleeding. So for both of them, they are now will not fast. For the amount of days they miss, they will make it up.
But for postnatal, they don't pay, right? They just fast.
They fast. Yes, correct. They fast. Some people say, okay, what if somebody gives birth every year? Yeah, you have enough time to make it up. So that is not next week. This is a question that came up last year. We can.
Just time it away.
Right?
Time it away where you're not pregnant in the middle of life.
Because now somebody will say, why is that the case? Actually, it can bring up, you know what? Because they're going to be breastfeeding, and this means to another discussion. Breastfeeding or pregnant? What happens?
Make it up as
You have to
well.
make it up.
So now, there's categories now. Again, I know it's a little bit of boring because it's all academics and abstract and all these things. Bear with me. If somebody is pregnant or breastfeeding, there is different things. Either they fear for themselves, for their own health. Then what they're excused to break their fast, and they will make up the fast that they missed. 10 days, you will make up those days. 15 days, 20 days. The thing with breastfeeding and pregnancy is based on experience. The first child is usually experiment child. Then you can gauge yourself if you're able to do it. But if you have the second pregnancy, the third pregnancy, then you already know what you are accustomed to. Then you can be able to. Some people they fast, some people they break. No problem.
If you were to fast, and then it would decrease your milk supply significantly, that you wouldn't be able to.
Again, now let's discuss that. Now you are fearing, is that fear for the self or fear for the child? For the child now, right? So now it's not fear for the self. Fear for the self, you just only make up those days. If it's fear for the child, then first of all, the hukum is that it's disliked for you to break, according to the Shafi'is. And I think the Hanabila and the Malikis. Don't quote me on that, but I think the Hanabila and Shafi'is, yes. It's disliked for you. It's fear for who? The child. It's disliked for you to break the fast. But if you do break the fast, then you are required to make up that day, and pay.
I mean, you also pay even if you, for example, from Ramadan to Ramadan, you don't make up your days. You
Right,
only have to.
correct. We get, that is a different category too. Right?
So
So,
you pay and fast if you don't make up within the year?
so
From Ramadan to Ramadan?
yeah, so that's a different issue. We'll come back to that. But if you fear for the child now, when you're breastfeeding or pregnant, what happens is that now you're going to make up that day plus pay a mud for each day that you missed. Let's say you missed 10 days, you fast 10 days plus, let's say $15 we mentioned, 15 times 10, $150. Okay? For the Maliki school, this second category that I've mentioned is only obligated for a woman that is breastfeeding. If she's pregnant, she doesn't have to make up, she doesn't have to pay, she just makes up. The ruling only applies to when she's breastfeeding. Okay. Now, there is a special ruling now for somebody who missed, let's say, 2 days of the Ramadan of 2023. So they still have time to make it up. They missed 2 days. So now they'll make up 2 days plus $15 for each day, $30. You make up the day plus pay.
For which madhab is that?
Shafi'is.
Okay.
I don't know the other madhab.
So there's a lot of girls that I came across that they're like, oh, we don't know, we never knew that we had to fast or make them up.
Yes.
So, and they were like, oh, well, for example, I started.
I had that question last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so like they're like, they started their cycle when they were like 15.
Correct.
So what I tell them,
Just make up the
make
day.
it up, but just like also like if you're like a week long, like just time it by like how
Correct.
many years you missed and do it.
And then pay.
So they have to pay.
Correct. That's the answer that I gave. But they can ask for a different opinion and see.
So you do a week, is that what you say?
Depends on how long it is, like usually for your body.
But how about, you know, I had trouble with spotting.
We good with time, right?
Like until 9:15, 9:20.
9:20. You gave me the calendar 10 o'clock. That's why I was like, yeah, you put 10. I don't know. And even your advertisement says 8 to 10. I'm just saying. Not me. That's why I was very slow to, but I'm sorry. So I'll go quick.
You're good.
But yes, what was the question?
Well, my problem was I had this kind of hormonal imbalance, and I would be thinking I'm done with the menstrual thing, and then all of a sudden 2-3 days later I'm spotting, and I could not keep up with how many days that went on for. So what do? I choose.
So when it comes to menstruation, so there is minimum days and maximum days. The minimum days is what?
40.
1 day and 1 night, so 24 hours.
Okay.
That's the minimum day. The maximum day is going to vary with the madhab. So the Shafi'i madhab is 10 days. The Hanafi madhab is 15 days. Okay? So, and we have, so you whatever it is. So it's either 10 days or 15 days, whatever you are comfortable with. But there is something we call ada. What is your habitual menstruation? There's some people are 7 days. There's some people are 5 days. There's some people, so you know what your habitual is.
Okay.
So now, if your habitual is 7 days, and then this time you had 2 days of purity, and then after the 3rd day, you saw that, again, you see some spotting. I usually say that you're still menstruating. Even though the 2 days that you fasted, that is okay. You're still menstruating because you're still within the days.
So does
But-
that invalidate those days? You have to make them up?
No,
because-
the 2 days that you thought you were clean, you're good.
Okay.
It's now the second, what is it called? Now the day that now you're sporting, then that day is what? Those days if you're still within. But if it's outside the days, or the 10 days or the 15 days, meaning day 16 or day 11, whatever opinion you follow, then that becomes istihada. Then you're good. You continue fasting. Yeah, you continue fasting. It's just going to be a different scenario when it comes to prayer. Yeah, you had a question.
The daily amount determined that you said, like $15?
That is depending on the locality.
On the locality.
Yeah, so that's the mud is actually the mud is what zakat al-fitr is based on,
Right. Okay.
right? So some madhabs they actually you have to give it in kind,
Right.
meaning if the staple food is barley or rice, you have to give that one mud of rice.
Yeah.
But how practical is it for us here?
Yeah.
No, so we all pay, we go tap the card,
Yeah.
right? So then, how do they come up with that calculation? I have no idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some people just look it up on Google, like, oh, is that like Islamic relief offers?
Correct.
Pay them.
Sure.
Depends on.
Another dispensation that we give us is a traveler.
Yes.
So if you're a traveler, the Shafis and the Malikis have a little bit of strange ruling. That means that when are you considered a traveler is first of all when the distance is long enough for you to shorten your prayer.
Isn't that like
50 miles.
50, not 80?
50.
Not 80.
No.
Oh.
It's 80 kilometers. It's 80 kilometers, 50 miles.
Oh, okay.
So 50 miles outside the city vicinity.
it's like even if you're driving.
It doesn't matter. You're walking, you're driving, flying, it doesn't matter. That distance is met. Secondly, the journey is a permissible journey. We have something called al-asi fi safar wa asi bis safar. Somebody is actually going to do something good, or somebody is going to Las Vegas to do what is done in Vegas. Then, if somebody is going to Vegas for things that is only going to stay in Vegas, then you're not given the dispensation. You're not given the rukhsa to break up your fast.
What if you're going for something educational?
I mean,
If you're going for something educational, that is okay. You're going for a conference, and then after the conference, you're right, you engage in something that was the intention for you to go to Vegas was conference, was not to do Vegas stuff.
Okay, cool.
I actually don't know what is done in Vegas, but I've never been to West Coast.
DEF-CON is really cool.
I don't know what that is, but right? Whatever you do, if the journey is permissible journey.
So you call it Safar Asi?
Al-asi fi safar wal-asi bis safar. Al-asi fi safar yani you went, I'm going for a conference, but while in the conference you engaged in some impermissible stuff. Or al-asi bis safar meaning I am going to Vegas to gamble.
Okay.
I want to be a millionaire. I'm going to gamble. Haram. La yajuz. So shortening of prayer is not going to be allowed for me, and breaking my fast is not allowed for me. Because guess what? I'm letting go of my privileges, like we mentioned before, right? And then this is unique to the Shafis and Malikis, that you have to begin your travel before the fasting has begun. If, let's say, your flight is at 8 a.m., as a Shafi or Maliki, you have to continue fasting.
So the travel has to begin before the fasting?
Correct.
Okay.
The Hanbalis say it doesn't matter, provided the conditions of what the fast to. The distance is met, you can break your fast if you want to.
so I have a question. One time I was traveling and the duration was like 13 hours and it was Ramadan. So they were like, okay, like the airline was like, you're good to break your fast right now. It's Maghrib. 10 minutes after, they were like, get ready to like hold your fast because you're in this path.
Yes,
So what do you do there?
you do exactly what they did. If you go this way, stuff. You can be fasting all of even for 16, 17 hours.
Yeah.
Wait, that's if your travel is.
I mean, 13 hours is over 50 miles, so yeah. You can break it up. Either way, it's easy and you don't have to fast for some people.
Okay, so that is it. Now, lastly is I will talk about the intention and then the invalidator. Sheikh Farhan talks about it. So what is going to make the fasting valid? One is intention and abstaining from those things that are going to break fasting. Imam Farhan is going to cover that. Let's talk about intention. When should I have the intention? Is it every single day? Is it the beginning of the month? When should I have it? According to the Shafi'is, the intention must be made each and every single day.
So you have to be awake for suhoor. You can't sleep. Or before
Again,
If you can intend it.
intention every single day, and it's a night from Maghrib, post-Maghrib, up to Fajr.
But what if you forget?
If you forget, then you don't have the fasting.
No way.
Absolutely. According to all the madhab, not even, unless, so now, let's start with the most student, Shafi'is. That is why, when you, in the Shafi'i land, after Maghrib prayer, you say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, astaghfirullah, 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 nawaitu sawma ghadin. The Imam says and everyone follows. The whole city follows. The Imam gives you the ta'yin of the niyyah.
No way to siyam again.
Yes, nawaitu siyam. Right? But that's it.
Oh, okay.
Okay? But the intention has to be specific that you're fasting the fard of Ramadan. Okay, that's one. Every single day. And then we have the Hanafi. It has to be formed every single day until the middle of the following day. Until Zawal. So even after you wake up, yeah. And then we have the Maliki is that you make your intention once and for all at the beginning of the month. I intend to fast the month of Ramadan, is good for you. But now they have a caveat. If you break your fast because of sickness, because of legal things, then as soon as your legality has ended, you have to again renew your intention until the remainder of the days of fasting. That's the Maliki school.
And what if you were ignorant like I was about the intention? You know, I just fasted, everybody in my family prepared for Ramadan, we know it's coming, but I really didn't make that Allahumma inni nawaitu siyam.
You don't have to make that. Intention is no words.
Okay.
Intention, the place of intention is al-qalb.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That if I ask you, why did you wake up for Fajr? Why did you wake up for Suhoor? You woke up for Suhoor, right?
Yeah.
Oh, why did you wake up for Suhoor?
Well, because I'm fasting.
Okay, that's it.
That's it. Okay, well, that
Right.
expression.
That an expression indicates what you're doing. Yeah, that doesn't apply to us. It's okay.
Once again, the Islamic Center is now closed. I'm asking everyone to exit as soon as possible.
Okay.
See you at present time.
So you got it?
Yes.
So if you woke up, it's a shadow indication. Or some people make it, we call at-talaffuz bin-niyya. At-talaffuz bin-niyya in the Shafi school is mustahab, is recommended. Because he encourages you to do it. That's all I had. Any questions? It's like we just need to get out of here. If you have questions, we're going to ask Sheikh Farhan. Even better. Going once, twice, 3 times.
Oh, what was the question that you had?
Oh yes, the question that you had.
The question that I had was, so if someone is, have like a mental health issue, or was autistic, for a female, especially if it's a guy who's older, like do you still have to wear hijab in front of them?
Good question.
Who has the mental?
The guy.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
If it's not your mahram, it doesn't have. It has nothing to do.
Autistic or has Down syndrome?
It doesn't matter.
Oh.
Yeah, if as provided it's the opposite gender and it's not your mahram, you have to observe your.
I have another
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
If, okay, your mahram is your son-in-law. Like,
Your son-in-law becomes your mahram. Correct.
okay.
Yes.
But then what if it's your stepson-in-law? You know, he's like the husband of your stepdaughter. Is that a mahram too?
No.
No?
Because
But
what does stepdaughter mean? It's not your daughter. From what my understanding of English, unless
Yeah.
my understanding of English is wrong.
Yeah.
Stepdaughter is not your daughter.
Is that my
Her husband is not your mahram. Again, culturally,
It is.
stepdaughter becomes your daughter,
Exactly.
and then the husband becomes your
Right,
son-in-law.
yeah.
But shar'an is not your son-in-law.
But even if there's a big difference in age,
It has nothing to do with age.
How?
Can he marry you? Is the question.
a lot of,
I mean, culture,
Shar'an,
no.
meaning that if the nikah was done, is the nikah going to be valid? Yes. I'm not going to say he's going to marry you,
Yeah.
but is the nikah going to be valid? Yes. And like your actual son-in-law, is your actual son-in-law, can he marry you?
No.
The nikah is invalid.
Okay.
So it becomes your mahram. Anyone that is going to marry you, including your husband, is not your mahram. People have this connotation that your husband is your mahram. Your husband is not your mahram. That's why you married him. Now he takes a different role and responsibility. There's some things that is impermissible for other people now becomes permissible for him because of the nikah, because of the contract. But it's not your mahram. Understood? So that's why in the Shafi'i school, your husband breaks your wudu.
Yeah, that's extreme.
No, it's not extreme. It's the madhab. La mastumun nisa. Is your wife nisa or not? The Quran says, when a woman touches you, is your wife a woman or not? Hopefully, inshallah, she's a woman. Please. She's like, nah, ya Rab, please, she's a woman.
But like,
Right?
but one time we had this conversation, me and you. If how do I say this? Like,
It puts you into a state of lust, is what it basically
no,
happens.
but like for example, like the husband like opened the door and like he told his wife to go in, so he tapped her back or like held her hand. To
Accidental and intentional has no bearing. Touched, cashier is giving you a change. Accidental, no, nothing, don't intend it, doesn't matter.
Oh, like at work, like I'm a medical assistant,
Allahu Akbar.
so like you touch both genders.
Absolutely.
So,
Allah
like,
bless you for your work.
telling me
Your wudu is broken.
every time I have a male.
Every time you have somebody who is not your mahram of an opposite gender, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba, the sink is waiting for you to make the wudu.
But that's a lot.
Again, a lot shay and sharia is shay.
So does that apply if you have anything between you guys, like if you have gloves or something? Or
No, it has to be skin to skin contact. Very good question. Skin to skin contact.
Also, if
That's the Shafi school. The Maliki school and the Hanbali school says it has to be with shahwa. If you touch skin to skin with desire.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
Again, that is the Maliki and the Hanbali school. Ya Sayyidati, inti Shafi'iyya.
I mean, like, for
Okay?
especially my mother-
Inta khali ma Shafi'i.
the thing is that a touch can also trigger desire, and that's, I think, part of why it is. Is that the truly why?
The Hanafi say lust, no lust, shahwa, no shahwa, no problem. You touch skin to skin, no problem. Wudu is valid, ahlan wa sahlan. Now the touch is a different hukum. But does that break your wudu in the Hanafi school? No. Don't ask me my opinion, but you know.
Another question.
Yes.
So this is, I don't know, I know this might be more cultural. So sometimes when we're having a girls' discussion, like, oh, who do you wear your hijab on? We know all your non-mahram, you have to wear the hijab.
Including cousins.
Exactly, I was gonna say.
Cousins are not.
Cousin.
Huh?
Yes.
Cousins are not your mahram.
Because you can marry them.
You can marry your cousins. So the hijab has to be worn in front of your cousin. Culturally, we do not.
right.
Culturally, cousins are sister, brother.
And,
How about, like,
their
brother-in-laws?
kids, and their kids.
Brother-in-law, another good question. Brother-in-law is not your mahram.
It's only your
Brother-in-law, you observe all of the Sharia boundaries. Hijab, no shaking hands, etc. and etc. and etc.
If your children, if your child divorces, if your daughter divorces her husband,
he's not your
He is your mahram entirety of his, yes.
Really?
Correct.
He divorces?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. To the mother-in-law.
And he becomes your mahram when the nikah is signed,
Correct.
not when the engagement or fat has done.
Again, this is one thing that I personally don't know, and I'm still exploring, and I get contradictory answers. Is that what does Katibul Kitab mean? Is that nikah shar'an or not?
wait,
Some people tell me, yeah, it is, but then no. I just wanna ask, Shar'an, is Katbul Kitab a nikah?
No, it makes nikah illegal.
Yes, yes.
I don't understand that. What does that mean?
So I thought nikah meant consummation.
Right.
No,
I thought,
No. No.
nikah is no consummation.
Under God, like you're married.
It's the contract.
Yeah.
so, okay, wait. So is consummation what marks mahram status?
No.
Or
No.
is it-
No, nikah.
The nikah itself.
Okay, so what is the difference between
I marry you, I accept on the conditions. At that ceremony, we have something called al-lahda latifa. At that ceremony moment, the husband to your daughter becomes your mahram. Whether he consummates the marriage or not has no bearing.
So what is the difference between nikah and kitab?
Nikah
That is the question that I am asking people who do that. Culturally, we don't have that. Now we have, in my culture, we don't even have something called engagement.
Yeah, engagement.
We don't have that thing.
It isn't even real. I mean, it's a cultural thing.
Again, I'm not here to discuss is real or not real. I just want to understand, what does Katbul Kitab mean? Is that a nikah or not? Okay, good. If it's nikah, then that is it. At that moment, that individual becomes your mahram.
My katb kitab is nikah, it's just different wording.
Correct, no problem. And I've been asking this for long years. Every people is like, no, it's a contract, pre-contract. Wait, okay, just tell me, khalas. It's a valid marriage, khalas. At that moment, technically, can they consummate the marriage? Yes. Okay, that's all I needed to know.
They're like, apparently they were like, no, the dad has to give her away
Okay, again,
on the wedding.
that is culture. No problem. The culture is not contradictory to Islam. At that moment, it's not contradictory to Islam.
No, the wedding has to give her away. It's not always the father that's the wedding. It's
Yeah,
often
the
the
wedding.
father that's
The
the
wedding.
wedding.
Yeah, like whoever is.
But I mean, he blesses it, and then contract is signed. And then,
No, the wali has to be there. So for the contract to be valid, the wali has to be there. So he already gave you, in a sense. Okay, khalas.
But like they were like, oh, he needs to give you again.
Again.
When the wedding comes.
Then
And they're like, oh, I hand you my amana.
sure.
that's symbolic and cultural.
Yes. But at that moment that Katb al-Kitab is done,
It's
then the son-in-law becomes the mahram of the mother-in-law.
Of course, yeah.
And the father-in-law becomes the mahram of the... Yeah,
You
correct.
should just hold like a halakha where everyone just brings all their questions. I would like
Yes, all of the fiqh questions, that is happening in Al-Hijrah. Imam Farhan, before every Jumu'ah prayers, 15 minutes before, you can submit, there's a QR code up there, you can scan and submit your question, and he does that, and he actually records them, one. Secondly, he does that in the month of Ramadan, 5 minutes before the Salah of Isha, every single day.
If we just
Except-
had an hour and a half long Q&A, I would sit there with a bucket of popcorn because I want to know whatever.
Sure, he does that. So I don't know. And thirdly, I am not a community appointed authority to give answers and questions. And that is not my place. So there is an actual legitimate scholar that is meant for that, and that is Sheikh Farhan. Questions in class and that like that, I'm willing to answer. Other than that, unless the administration and he himself gives me permission to do that, I am not in a place to do that. Eh?
I thought you're a fiqhi.
Eh?
I thought you-
No, I'm not a faqih. Whoever gave you that impression lied to you. And if I gave you that impression, I apologize. And
assume so, I guess, because I like.
Allah forgive me for me being looking that way.
Well, no, because you have the Shafi'i fiqh class. So
Correct.
I thought that's because
I teach Shafi fiqh. Teaching Shafi fiqh is something, and being a faqih is something else. It's like saying that I am a medical practitioner and saying that I'm a medical expert. There's practitioner, there's practice, and then there is there's scholarship, and then there's mastery, and then there's scholarship. In any field that you have, whatever. You're an economist, you're a psychologist, you're a doctor, you're a whatever you have. Same thing is in Sharia. I am a practitioner of the Shafi'i school and teaches Shafi'i school. I am not a master of Shafi'i school, neither a scholar of the Shafi'i school. I'm a practitioner.
your goal to become one.
Inshallah, Ya Rab. Ya Rab. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us.